depending where you are. Could be good evening or good afternoon. I'm not sure where my tribe is choosing to join from today, but I'm very excited to be talking about overwhelm. So again, just let me know if you are here, who's here, who can hear me, and if I'm loud and clear. It's always very important, and I'm sure my lovely Janet is here. So if you can just let me know whether I am loud and clear. Good morning. And yes, so this morning it's all about overwhelm. And I chose this topic because I feel overwhelmed so much of the time lately. My friends that I speak to tell me that they're feeling overwhelmed. My clients are all telling me they're feeling overwhelmed, and I'm kind of, what's going on that we are all feeling so overwhelmed? And I think it kind of makes sense because there is so much going on in our lives. There's COVID, there's becoming a teacher. My one friend was saying to me, I'm now a teacher, I'm a parent, I'm a colleague, and it's all just too much. So whoever's feeling like that, you're at the right place. And of course, what happens when we feel overwhelmed? So many of us turn to doing the over things, like we either overdrink, we overeat, we overshop, and we procrastinate, and we don't make decisions. And we stay almost like in a freeze mode. So I'm going to explore this morning what it is, what is overwhelm, why we have it, and share some techniques with you in terms of how you can overcome it. So what really helps me deal with overwhelm when I sense the feeling, and here's the first clue, it's an emotion. So overwhelm is an emotion, and I like to use the think, feel, act cycle to get in touch with what is going on for me. And often what we think is our circumstances are creating the overwhelm. It's COVID, it's schooling, it's having to pick up the kids, it's my son got ill, I've got to find a way to go and pick him up now, I've got meetings to attend, I've got to get dinner going, I've got so many deadlines. Those are circumstances. Those are not overwhelm. That's not what's causing the overwhelm, your circumstances. What's causing the overwhelm are your thoughts about it. So that's why we actually have it, because we start to create certain thoughts that about these circumstances which put us then in overwhelm. So overwhelm is caused generally by thoughts such as the black and white thoughts. It's like the all or nothing. I've got so much to do. I don't even know where to start. It's all too much. It's all too much is a very typical black and white thought. It's not very helpful. It creates the overwhelm. Then we have the should thoughts. The should thoughts are all about where we compare, and we try and push ourselves to do something by saying, I should do that, I should get better, I should get a handle on this. And what it does is it creates overwhelm. The other thoughts we have are perfection thoughts. And perfection thoughts are often very much about being in the details. We get stuck so much on the details of getting the tiniest little details right that we all over the place. And perfectionism is really something that can keep us stuck and all over the place. So watch out when you are comparing yourself. You're going for perfection. You're saying, I need more knowledge. I need to find out more. I don't know it all. That is all about perfection. Only I can do it is another one. I've got to do it all because nobody does it like me is another thought that brings on perfection. And then we have the people pleasing. So people pleasing is when we really get tied into other people's to-do lists. We take them on. We want to please. We don't know how to say no, and this is what really gets us into overwhelm. I always ask myself, am I people pleasing? What am I not saying no to? When I feel no, am I saying yes? And I see this happening a lot in families where one person feels like they need to do everything to keep everybody happy. It's the way they keep the peace, so they just keep on taking on more and more and more to do. But it's actually can be delegated. So ask yourself, is it really necessary for me to have to do all of these things? And am I taking on a long list of everybody else's or other people's priorities? So I'm taking on everyone else's priorities is black and white thinking. It's catastrophizing. It's all too much. I'm doing everything. So just pop in the comment box for me. What are the thoughts that you have that are maybe black and white, or are you more of a perfectionist? Do you often say to yourself, I should be, or do you people please a lot? So find out where are you in terms of those thoughts that really create the emotion of overwhelm. So what do we do about it, and how do we overcome it? And I believe in really writing and journaling and getting it all out there when I'm feeling all over the place. A good way to do this is to do a thought download. And what I learned to do is actually on a Sunday is to do a thought download of everything that I think I need to do, everything I think I need to get done. And I put everything on a list, and I just let it free fall. Everything I need to do is on that list. And then I look at that list, and it could take me 10-15 minutes to write everything that I think I should get done and should do. And then I choose what it is that is important for me to get done in the week. And I schedule it. And I schedule it into my diary. And what is important and what I've learned is to schedule the me time, schedule the self-care time, schedule rest. Otherwise, we can get so caught up in continual busyness. And when I schedule in my diary, what my coach encouraged me to do was not to make it so vague. In fact, when I put it in the diary, have it in my diary as, what does it look like when completed? So, completed my Neo dance class, answered 20 emails, got back to 10 clients, sent out 5 contracts. And I put them in my diary as to where and when. I schedule my coaching session, had coaching session with. And Elizabeth Gilbert also talks about it in terms of getting creative around writing. What does she do? What does she encourage or advise people who want to write a book to do and to develop their writing skills? And she says what she does is she has blocks in her diary that are non-negotiables, and what she puts there is not just writing time. She puts there, wrote 500 words, 500 words written. That's even more specific. So it's almost like these to-dos that you have, you're creating little goals with them that you can then tick off, which is of course also fantastic for the dopamine. But what is very important is when we sit down and we start our tasks, we've got everything scheduled now, it's planning ahead, it frees us up in terms of being able to constrain. So what we're doing is we're constraining. So often we're trying to do 10 different things at the same time, and what we need to bring in once we've done our schedules and once we've done our thought downloads in terms of everything we want to do is we need to constrain and have discipline. So when we sit in front of the task, for example, writing the 500 words, you get into action, and you get into action at that time immediately. And the discipline is in not distracting yourself, which is learning how to really focus. And that was a big one for me, because I would find myself going into my thoughts, my perfectionist thoughts. I don't know it all, and where do I start? And then I would go and make a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, or I'd take a walk, or I'd think, oh, I need the bathroom now. And let me just check my phone. That's all creating distractions and overwhelm. So now what I do is my phone gets put away. I put myself there for 2 hours, and that's what I do. I do only this, nothing else. There's no distraction. And when the task is complete, I can get up and get myself a cup of tea or make myself lunch, which is also often, nowadays, I need to actually really schedule the time. This is my rest time, this is my lunch time, and really keep to it. So many times people say to me, oh, but that sounds so regimented. It sounds so like there's no freedom, but actually there's so much freedom in that. And I remember when I was in Rishikesh, I listened to a wonderful sannyasi, which is a Hindu nun. Her name is Sarasvati Bhagavati Ji, and she's Jewish. She did her PhD in neurobiology, came to India, Rishikesh, at the got to the Ganges, and felt like this is home, this is where I need to be, this is where I need to belong. But long story short, it's now 20 years later, and she is a sannyasi, and in the evenings when you are in Rishikesh, you can go and attend satsangs with her. And a satsang is really a lesson where you can ask her any question and then she responds. And one of the questions actually came up about, having a much more excited life, having lots of different things to do, and how do we balance everything? And the person who asked her was saying that they just find sometimes that life is so difficult, and when they go out, they're vegetarian, there's not enough, they don't have many options. And she spoke about how beautiful that is for the mind when we don't have that many options. And she said, because then we can free ourselves to think about other things and to be more creative. And for example, being a sannyasi, she wakes up in the morning, she knows she's going to wear an orange robe, she knows the cook is going to have prepared her normal meal, she goes to prayer, and when she goes to a restaurant, she knows exactly that what she will choose is vegetables. So she doesn't have to go and look at all the different, make a decision about all the different things she needs to do. Her routine and her rituals are really mapped out for her. And then she can focus on what really makes her come alive, which is to go and work with young girls in the villages, go and speak to politicians about getting clean water to the villages, better schooling. That's where she can spend her energy versus trying to just make decisions all day long about all these different tasks that need to be done. And if you think about it, back in the day when we were cavemen and cavewomen, we had to really just use our brains to think about, okay, am I safe? How do I get food? And usually the food would be whatever we could find. But today we get an overwhelm of so many different options. So we get almost like decision fatigue. We have to continually decide. And what the brain thinks is every decision is based on am I safe, or am I going to die, or am I going to have pleasure, am I going to continue? And to understand the brain, and the brain in terms of overwhelm and how it functions, I love a book by Swai Kwok. She's Vietnamese and living in America now. But she wrote this book called Calm Clarity, and it's really about how you can use neuroscience to bring calm clarity to your life, and by understanding your brain. And she actually talks about us having 3 brains, and the first brain being our fight, flight, or freeze brain, which she calls her Godzilla brain. So think about it. When you're feeling overwhelmed, do you go into fight, do you go into flight, or do you go into freeze? Most of us get like a brain freeze. It's like we don't know what to do, where to go. And then we procrastinate. So she calls that the Godzilla brain. So we can, and then she talks about brain 2.0 being her inner teen wolf brain. Brain 2.0 being where we get motivated to look for reward, to look for pleasure, to get out of the danger, to get out of the freeze, out of the procrastination, that feeling. We'll look into getting really busy, eating, drinking. That's where we do the over pleasuring, and most of us are living in these 2 brains as a rinse and repeat. We're either in fight, flight, or freeze, or we are in doing, or in watching lots of Netflix, or in over drinking just to feel better. And when we are between these 2 brains, what we cannot be in is our creative brain, our observer brain, our inner sage. She calls that brain 3.0, or in neuroscience we call it the prefrontal cortex. And if we look at anything that has been created in our world and how we have evolved as humans, it's been because we've been able to access our prefrontal cortex, our inner sage. We've been able to create the space to become creative, to create. And we can observe ourselves in brain 1.0, fight, flight, or freeze, overwhelm, and we can then observe ourselves in brain 2.0. Oh, I'm watching lots of Netflix. I've been having lots of wine again lately. I've been shopping a lot. I'm doing all the over things again. What's going on here? Let's constrain. Let's get back to discipline. Let's create the space. Do the thought download. What is everything that I need to do? And when you've got everything scheduled and you've got your me time scheduled, your quiet time, your meditation time, then you have the space to think about creating. When you're able to just take a walk in nature and get perspective, when you are able to just be present with yourself, that's when you access your brain 3.0. And I love those 3 brains because we are not here on earth just to have rinse and repeat. It's no longer just about surviving as a species. There's so much we can create. There's so much we can do to evolve. And if we just look at all the brains, the way the brains are working in our world today to create more comfort, to create a better future, to look at how we can combat climate change. And I always say we can look at what is happening around us as positive. So we're either running towards our light, and when we are in overwhelm, we are often in our past, we are stuck in running from our to-do lists, our deadlines, everything we should be doing. When we are there, we can't be running towards our light, where we create, where we think about the future, and we move from the future. So what I would like to really offer you today is just to find a way to bring more quiet, to bring time to think into your life, bring the thought downloads in, plan your week, and don't be too vague. Bring in more constraints, bring in more discipline. Try and just focus on one task at a time. I noticed I had my grandsons over yesterday, and how quickly I can spin into overwhelm because I'm busy trying to make the dinner and I'm listening to this one, and then the TV is blaring, and then somebody's phone is not charging, and it's almost like I've got to do all these things, and it's the brain freeze, and it's kind of, I can't do it, I can't deal it. But when that happens, no, it's just an emotion, it's the thoughts, and if you bring it back to, okay, I can start now, I can do one task at a time. Let me sort out the dinner, then I'll sort out the phone, then I'll fix the TV. That is really how we get out of overwhelm. And again, curiosity, it's about evolving, it's about where do we want to be, it's about how do we get into our creative space, how do we create more space in our life to do the things that really feed our souls. And I really, really believe that is what we are here to do. We are here to be here for each other, to listen to each other, to inspire each other, and not just to take on more and more and feel that we are all over the place. And when we are in overwhelm and we are in busyness, that is not the time that we can actually put on our creative hat or our brain 3.0 in the sage. We are so busy flip-flopping between brain 1.0 and brain 2.0. So where do you find yourself flip-flopping? How do you get to your inner sage? Pop me your comments, and that's it from me today. I hope that was helpful, and I hope that I shared some tips with you that you can explore. And let me see who's here and and how are you doing? Okay, so Diane said I needed to turn up the volume. Okay. Hello, Shays. Hello, Diane. I hope that you were able to hear me because Janet said it was loud and clear. Okay. Janet says, I've never been a perfectionist. I've learned that if you want to be productive, you sometimes have to settle for 80% or being good enough. Perfectionism can paralyze you, definitely. I tell myself now that it's okay to get a B minus and it's okay to be a beginner, and that it's not about perfectionism. Yes. Okay. Lists are brilliant. I have weekly lists and then a monthly project list. That's fantastic, Janet. That is really very, very good to know. Added benefit is that we get a dopamine hit, yes. And it also is very helpful if we can either do it on a Monday morning, have it as our where we do all our to-do lists for the week. And then on the Friday, we look back in terms of what have we achieved, what did we get done, where's the learning, did we maybe overschedule? This is all just such a beautiful learning curve. And again, whenever we tick something off, we get that dopamine hit and we get that feeling of reward. Hi Jen. Okay, so the resources that I can really recommend is Calm Clarity, a book from Zwei Kwok, and somebody can maybe put that in the comments. It's Calm Clarity, and you spell her name Duequach, and you pronounce it Zwei Kwok, but I can also come in later and put it there. Shez says that my soul doesn't feel fed. I'm totally overwhelmed by finances and trying to survive. Okay, I would like to just have a look at what are your thoughts about your finances that are creating the overwhelm. Is there a lot of, there's not enough? These catastrophic thoughts, it's just never enough, I just don't have enough, I just don't know how I can make it, versus constraining, okay, what do I have? And again, how do I work with what I do, and then bringing in, when we step back we can allow for the brain 3.0, the creative brain, to come in. Oh, how wonderful to see you here, Jess. And what is Jess telling me? She's saying that she's adding way too much more by distracting herself, and then all she feels is that she can do is disengage and hide from the world, and it solves nothing. Yes, we are like a deer in headlights when we just adding on and adding on and adding on, and we're distracting ourselves just from not wanting to feel the overwhelm. When we learn to really sit with the feeling and just be, and even just journal what it feels like. Is it hot? Is it cold? Where is it in my body? We bring ourselves out of our brains and into our bodies, and we allow ourselves to feel. And when we are in our feelings, then we can also just, when we journal around them, it's amazing what clarity can come. So, yes, Jess, I feel you, and I know exactly how that happens. I know why we want to distract ourselves. I know why we want to engage Brain 2.0 so much, because Brain 2.0 is all about the numbing art, the pleasure, the feeling better about ourselves. And so where are we? When we're distracting a lot, when I notice that I'm distracting myself a lot, I always come back to like what's really going on. And I cannot emphasize enough how much thought downloads, journaling have helped me gain clarity, and breath work. And yet it's always needing to identify first and putting in the pause. So when we don't do that, often we just go into our instinctual behavior, our rinse and repeat behavior, which is why so often then we would just turn to drinking or overeating. So good to see you all here today. Always for me, just such a pleasure to share some of my knowledge. And also when I'm sharing, I'm like reminding myself. So I always say I teach what I need to know. We are all in this together. We are all evolving. We are all on a path to create the life that we really don't want to distract from, that we don't want to be overwhelmed by. We want to be very deliberate and create a life that is fulfilling, that fulfills us. If you're feeling overwhelmed and you're not quite sure how to move on from here, remember, as a member, you do get a complimentary coaching session. Take up the coaching session. Maybe go for a meditation with Belinda. There's so many tools at Tribe Sober. Come to the Zoom cafe. Talk about it. But don't isolate. Don't freeze. Don't procrastinate. Don't stay in overwhelm. Engage Brain 3.0. What can I do? How do I get out of this feeling? How do I move forward? How do I move towards the light and not keep running from my darkness? Thank you, Tribe. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. And I will see you in 2 weeks' time. As always, have a beautiful Saturday. Bye.